Good morning, Boker Tov. May we hear Besoros Tovas Yeshuas V'Nachamas. 10 minutes of meeting. His series is generously sponsored by Shmuel and Esther Shayos Lili Nishmas, his father Yaakov Yehuda ben Gedalia, and in the schus of Refuah Shlema of her mother Batsheva Bas Bluma. Rivka, please help yourself to coffee and refreshments. We're learning Iggeres Haramban, the letter of the Ramban that he wrote to his son, the letter of the Ramban that he wrote to all of us about how to be our better selves, the formula for a meaningful, purposeful life filled with richness in our relationships and in our connection with Hashem. The Ramban has given us this winning formula, how to condition ourselves to speak softly and kindly, and therefore to avoid anger. When one avoid anger to be filled instead with humility. When you have humility, to have yira, awe of Hashem. And we left off last week, before whom we're going to have to din v'cheshbon. The Gra said din is accountability for what we did wrong. Cheshbon is what we could have done right. When we waste and squander time, when we waste and squander energy, when we waste and squander resources, it's not only what we did wrong with them, it's what we could have done right with them instead. And then the Ramban continues, he says, V'kasher tachshov eskol eila. When a person thinks about all this, when you think about how do you speak softly and gently, how do you avoid anger and rage, how are you filled with humility and modesty, how do you recognize and see the hand of Hashem so you have awe, how are you able to be accountable for all of our decisions and our actions and behaviors. When you think about all of this, and Tachshov, the Ramban is saying to his son, to all of us, don't think about it once. Don't consider it occasionally. But be Tachshov, meditate, contemplate, think about it. A shtickle is bodida, set aside time to think. We're living in a fast-paced world. We're living in a world where we're filled with such noise. We can't get in a car without putting on a podcast, a shiur, or music, or making a phone call. We can't walk from point A to point B without turning on some noise. We're so miserable and incapable about being alone and being in our own thoughts. We fill that space with noise all the time, and we're losing out on the breakthrough that comes through the inner struggle of the inner conversation when we're talking with ourselves. So, kasher tachshov es kol eila. It's a chiddush. The Ramban says it's a chiddush. Think. Thinking today is a chiddush. Thinking today is a novel idea, the notion of thinking. When I spent the summer at Kellogg Advanced Executive Program, and we were addressed by the former CEO of Baxter, a company of tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of employees, he spoke about in his schedule, he had time allocated every day to think. And he would actually disconnect, turn off his technology. His assistant knew he couldn't be interrupted. And he designated time to think, and he had an agenda to that thinking. What's a problem I'm trying to solve? What's a dilemma I'm trying to find a solution to? What is a dream or an aspiration? What's a goal I want to set? What is something I want to evaluate about myself, about the company? He had an agenda to that thinking, and he set aside time to think. And we do the opposite. Chas v'shalom, we're lost or caught up in our own thoughts. We have nothing to do. If you're ever someplace, the most miserable punishment you could have, you had a doctor's appointment, they put you in that gown, they locked up all your things, now you're in a room. There's no magazine, there's no doctor. All you have is the crinkle of that gown that's barely covering anything and your own thoughts. It's like a punishment. It's a punishment in today's world because we always need to be occupied, preoccupied. We need noise. We need something disrupting and interrupting and distracting. The Ramban says you're not going to have breakthrough. Kasher tachshov es kol eila. We need to think. We need to think. Designate time to think. We're going to have our annual Espodidus on the beach, Chodesh Elul, where we're going to learn together, sing together, and then divide across the beach to just sit and think. Put your device in a bucket, turn it off on airplane mode, and just think. Just think. That's where breakthrough happens. It happens in the quiet. It happens in the thinking. His bodidus, the aloneness, and his bonaness, contemplativeness and thoughtfulness, and to think. So the Ramban says that we take for granted. In the Ramban's words, these letters, these words to his son, he's saying something outstanding, which you could gloss over. Right? You could focus on brilliant, I'll speak softly so I won't get angry. Oh, brilliant. Like, what am I supposed to think about? No, stop. Just let the words think. Think. Do we think? Do we think? Go for a 2-minute walk every day without your phone. Leave it on your desk. Turn your phone on airplane mode and just sit and breathe and think and lose yourself. Go sit in that ice bath and just think about surviving. But in there, you're not watching or talking or listening. All you're doing is breathing and trying to get out and trying to have your body enjoy the endorphins and adrenaline that's being released. Designate time to think. And what's the result? If a person thinks consistently, tira mi borecha, you'll have yira. Tira, does that mean fear? Be afraid? Yes. Yes, it's good to have a healthy dose of fear, but also not only healthy fear, but awe. Feel awe. V'tishamer min hachet. When you have awe of Hashem, it will protect and guard you from chet. What's chet? A chet is a missed opportunity. If you've been learning with me for a long time, you know chet is not a sin. A chet hu hichti. A chet is a missed opportunity. Chet is a missed opportunity. Tishamer, guard yourself, be protected from chet. From chet, from missed opportunities. Why do we do chet? It's Elul. This is a convenient time of the year to talk about this. Why do we make mistakes? Why do we miss opportunities? Why do we make poor choices? Why do we sabotage our own success? Chazal tell us, because Ein Adam Chote Ela Im Kei Nichnas Bo Ruach Shtus. What happens? We lose our minds. We go insane momentarily. Every time we do stupid things, there are momentary lapses of sanity. A person eats something they shouldn't eat that's going to kill them. It's a momentary lapse of sanity. We're learning now on Sunday mornings in Tzmichas Chaver, halachas of benching, halachas of zimun. Rabbi Yashav says, we were discussing yesterday, do you make a bracha if you eat non-kosher? On the one hand, it's not kosher. On the other hand, if you enjoyed it, how do you enjoy Hashem's world without a bracha? We paskin like the Ramban against the Ravid. You do not make a bracha if you're eating non-kosher. So Rabbi Yashav was asked, if a diabetic is eating a cake filled with sugar, should he make a bracha? It's technically kosher, the ingredients, but for him, it's suicide. Now, maybe not that particular piece, maybe only when you compound several cakes, several days or weeks or months of eating that cake, but maybe it's non-kosher for him, for her. Don't make a bracha. So why does the diabetic eat the cake? Why does the addict reach for the alcohol? Why does somebody still smoke a cigarette? Why do we make decisions? Why do we lose our cool and yell and scream at our spouse or our children when it's going to drive them further away from us? Why do we sabotage our success? Why do we make poor judgment? Why do we watch the thing we shouldn't watch? Chazal tell us it's a momentary lapse of sanity. There's a voice of insanity that comes in our mind. If you don't believe me, look at our world. Look at accomplished, smart, sophisticated people who threw it all away for a moment of pleasure, usually of the flesh, but sometimes of the wallet, of the pocket. And they threw it all away. They threw their success, their notoriety, their influence, their legacy. They throw it all away. Why? Because of a momentary lapse of sanity. A lapse of sanity. Nichnas bo ruach shtus. So what's the antidote? How do we avoid insanity? Awe of Hashem. Thinking, thoughtfulness, contemplativeness, focus on what matters. And here the Ramban says something that you wouldn't expect at all. If we designate time to think, if we're thoughtful, and our thoughtfulness leads us, what we're thinking about makes us feel, wow, I see Hashem everywhere, and I'm filled with awe of the Almighty, and therefore, I don't want to make mistakes, I don't want to have poor judgment, I don't want to be insane, I don't want to be insane and sabotage my life and my legacy. Therefore, what's the result of midos ha'ela? Now you're going to be happy with your lot in life. What? What does not getting angry have to do with being happy with what I have? What does having awe or fear of Hashem have to do with being happy with what I have? How do those things lead? Sameach bechelkacha, be happy with what I have. First of all, if I have a lot, it's easy to be happy with what I have. And even if I don't, that's a separate thing to work on. Looking at what I have and making the choice to be happy. Happiness is a decision, not an emotion. So how does awe of Hashem, and how does not allowing a lapse of sanity, and how does designating time to think and thinking consistently lead to being happy with what I have? That's what we'll pick up with Amir Hashem next week, because that is an amazing goal for all of us. If we could be happy in our lives and happy with what we have, with serenity and happiness, that is an incredible goal. We should have Besoros Tovos today, Yeshua.